a band that is a little bit more, I'll say, fine-tuned. Girlpool dropped their. We're talking about a lot of third albums today, strangely enough. Dropped their third album. What Chaos is Imaginary. I thought that this album was pretty interesting in a lot of ways. So Girlpool is a band that I've been pseudo familiar with. I've listened to a couple of their songs on past work, but I never really was very into the band. Reading up on this album, I think what intrigued me most was Cleo Tucker, one of the lead singers, recently came out as trans and has been taking hormones to transition from female to male, and it has deepened his voice and brings a lot more of a distinct vocal sound to this album and a distinction between the two, which I think was pretty interesting. And I also thought that they were able to pack a lot of different sounds into this. You know, at its core, it's dream pop, but it seems to really fluctuate depending on what they're trying to get across in the song. I'm wondering if you like this, because I know this is in that indie sphere where it could either be a really big hit for you or it's going to fall flat.
Yeah, it's not really for me. It's kind of like beach house, you know, it's just so mellow and like, dream pop. I never really can connect with these kind of songs just because the vocals don't really do anything for me. But they did change it up sometimes. I think songs like Pretty and Higher towards the beginning, those songs were more lively, both vocally and instrumental, that they almost kind of felt like brief, like detours from the rest of the sound. It's like I was actually like, oh, I like these, I could listen to these again. But then once it slows down again, it's just too mellow for me. But to be expected if you know my taste.
Yeah, you know, I actually, those are the two that stood out to me. It's also two of their singles off this, along with the title track. And I thought the title track was also really good. You know, that really had these like thumping drums to it, and then it had the strings kind of create that like dreamy aspect to listening to it. I thought that this album had a lot of good messages, and it was probably one of the more interesting ones in terms of just lyrical content and subject. You know, I think it helps that probably one of the people who is contributing to the lyrics is going through a major change in their life and has a lot of things to draw on for inspiration at this time. But it really does talk about, like, you know, grappling with who you were, transitioning to somebody new, and everything in between there. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think when this album is at its most boring are songs like Joseph's Dad, where it's kind of just like a straight acoustic indie. And when they are experimenting with different sounds and different ways of creating that dream pop element and like bringing guitars in, it really adds a lot. When they go more towards just making it like a classic singer-songwriter type song, it kind of falls flat for me. But yeah, Higher and Pretty were the two that stood out to me as well. Higher actually reminded me a lot of Oasis, and then when it transitioned to Pretty, it reminded me a lot of the Cranberries. Like at first I was like, man, this is a pretty cool transition between the two. Girlpool's a band that I think I'm going to be tuning into a lot more, because I feel like they have a lot of potential, but they're still kind of figuring out how to harness that. So definitely check that out. We'll be adding that to the playlist. You can find our playlist on Spotify. Just search for Nowstalgia Best of 2019.